Well, the state Supreme Court hearing arguments today about whether or not former President Trump should be allowed on the Minnesota ballot for the presidential race in 2024. Let's get straight to Rob Olson, who sat in on the hearings. And Rob, this group argues Trump is ineligible under a clause in the Constitution.
Yeah, and similar challenges popping up in other states across the country. In fact, a court case underway right now in Colorado, very similar to this, saying that due to President Trump's actions on January 6th, that should render him ineligible to hold office. But the Supreme Court justices here today asking a lot of questions and wondering, too, who gets to decide what an insurrectionist is, who they are, and whether this should be, in fact, decided at a state level.
Should we, is the question that concerns me the most.
The Chief Justice of the Minnesota Supreme Court early on in the 80-minute hearing on a petition to keep Donald Trump off Minnesota ballots said a big issue of concern is whether each state deciding that on its own would create legal chaos.
Where you have the potentiality of 50 different states who, depending on the nature of the statutes in those states, deciding this question differently.
We're trying to have you up with this now.
The cornerstone of the case is January 6th, the petition brought by a group of Minnesotans who argued that the events of that day and former President Trump's actions around it make him ineligible to hold office based on a constitutional amendment adopted after the Civil War.
Section 3 of the 14th Amendment protects the Republic from oath-breaking insurrectionists because its framers understood that if they're allowed back into power, they will do the same or worse.
And they argue that state law prevents ineligible candidates to be put on the ballot.
But the Constitution does not say that states have a role to play in determining who is eligible to be the president.
The attorney for Trump and his campaign argued the former president is not an insurrectionist, acquitted in his impeachment, nor is it up to a state Supreme Court to decide if he is.
What does it mean, in your estimation, to have engaged in insurrection or rebellion against the Constitution?
We would say that what happened on January 6th was crimes, some of them serious, was violence, some of it serious, but that it did not reach the scale or scope of what would be regarded as an insurrection.
Well, there is some legal precedent here, a number of court cases, those prosecuted for actions on January 6th, in which that was labeled in insurrection. So that's something that the court here will consider as well. They didn't put any timeline on their decision. They've been asked to hold an evidentiary hearing, to look at the evidence here and look into this further. They said they would take this under advisement, but didn't have any indication of when they would issue a ruling. Live in St. Paul, Rob Olson, Fox 9.